Joint Commission on Reducing Violent Crime Against Indians, and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentlewoman from Alaska, Ms. Peltola, and the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman, each will control 20 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Alaska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the measure under consideration.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The crisis of missing, murdered Native people and trafficked Native women has devastated families and communities and unfortunately has gone unaddressed throughout history. These losses are an open wound in our tribal communities and add to the generational trauma facing Native American families that many of us have experienced. In 2019, Senator Cortez Masto of Nevada, along with Representatives Tom Cole, Sharice Davids, Mark Wayne Mullen, and Deb Haaland, introduced the Not Invisible Act, which passed last Congress to assist in combating the longstanding missing and murdered Indigenous people, or MMIP, crisis. The Not Invisible Act established an advisory committee on violent crime to make recommendations to the Department of Interior and Department of Justice on best practices to combat the epidemic of missing persons, murder, and trafficking of Native Americans and Alaska Natives. It also created a point person within the Bureau of Indian Affairs charged with improving the coordination of violent crime prevention efforts across federal agencies. However, due to COVID-19 and a delayed transition between administrations, the Not Invisible Commission was delayed in organizing and action. S 5087 will extend the duration of the commission and includes additional support for functions of the commission so they can continue to do their important work for Indian country. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on S 5087, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, S 5087 would extend by an additional 18 months the sunset of the Department of Interior and Department of Justice's Joint Commission on Reducing Violent Crime Against Indians. It would also extend by 18 months the time available for the Commission to submit its findings and recommendations to Congress, the Secretary of the Interior, and the Attorney General. This bill would clarify that the Commission may accept and use gifts or donations of services or property from Indian tribes, tribal entities, academic institutions, or other not-for-profit organizations as needed to carry out its duties. Signed into law on October 10, 2020, the Not Invisible Act of 2019 was intended to coordinate efforts to reduce violent crime within Indian lands and against Indians. The act required the Department of the Interior to designate a Bureau of Indian Affairs official to coordinate federal prevention efforts, grants, and programs related to cases of Indians that were missing, murdered, or victims of human trafficking. The act required the Department of the Interior and the Department of Justice to establish a joint commission on violent crime on Indian lands and against Indians. Within 18 months of enactment, the Commission was required to develop and make publicly available recommendations to the Secretary of the Interior, the Attorney General, and Congress on actions the federal government can take to combat violent crime against Indians on Indian lands, including recommendations for identifying, reporting, and responding to instances of missing persons, murder, and human trafficking. The Department of the Interior has reported that the Commission was not fully established until April 2022 and has requested additional time to do its work. While I believe the findings and recommendations of the Commission are warranted, I am disappointed in the process for this legislation. S 5087 has no House companion bill, and Democrats failed to conduct regular order for this legislation before bringing it to the floor of the House. The authorization for the Commission expired in October, yet this majority failed to prioritize the extension of this authorization to address this important issue. Instead, we're here just days before the end of the 117th Congress, rushing this and other issues off the floor of the House and to the President for his signature. While I support the goals of this legislation, this again is not how we should be conducting our business in the House. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Alaska is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have no further requests for time. We are prepared to close. I reserve.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I support this legislation and yield the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Arkansas yields the balance of his time. The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge my colleagues to support the legislation, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass Senate